I'd like to call the McLeod County Board meeting in order today, August 15th. After we complete our Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like us to remain standing for a moment of silence in recognition of McLeod County Sheriff's Deputy Larry Monsky, who passed away August 1st, 2023. We need to keep the members of our McLeod County Sheriff's Department and the Monsky family in our thoughts and prayers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now begin our agenda items with our consideration of today's agenda. Is there any additions or corrections that need to be considered for today's agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Luthens to approve today's agenda items. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our consent agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmalz to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item of business, we'd like to welcome from the legislature, Bobby Harder from District 17B, representative. She would like to come today for a legislative update, so the microphone is yours.
Reference?
I don't believe so.
Is there?
Just make sure it's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Is it? Okay.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come to visit with you today, my fellow, former commissioners, pals. Just a little bit about me for those who do not know who I am. So I live in Henderson Township, which is south of the city of Henderson. That's roughly about drive time, maybe 45 minutes away. Previously, I served 2 terms as Sibley County Commissioner, and that was on the eastern side of the county. And then professionally, I work in agriculture, and I grow, with my husband, we grow corn and soybeans. The committees that I'm on would be agriculture, workforce, and state and local government. So I handed out today a legislative update that was written by the Communications Department, and that is written from the perspective of the minority party. So as you read that, you'll understand perhaps some of the language there. But I do want to highlight some of the areas of the handout, and if you have specific questions on bills, I'd be happy to answer them. Perhaps you can call me. I have with me, this is the summaries of all the bills that were passed this legislative session, and it's a lot. The one word I guess it can describe this legislative session is it was challenging in many respects. Personally, I think that there's an expectation that government is efficient and fiscally responsible with our money and is to be limited. However, this session we did get more agencies, more employees, and an increase in just about every agency. And there seemed to be an insatiable appetite to increase our taxes and to add new fees and perhaps new taxes. It was interesting that the tax omnibus bill, it seemed to be stalled in the committee. For what it appears that there are more increases and not enough to fund the potential increases. And that potentially could affect all of us in the years to come as we continue to fund what was in the legislation. So despite starting a legislative session with nearly $18 billion in a surplus, That was spent, and nearly an additional $10 billion was added in tax increases. We were told that we were going to get $2,000 in a refund, and then it was $1,000, and now we're going to be satisfied with getting $260 per person. The state grew government over the 2-year biennium budget, so it was $52 billion, and it's growing to $69 billion. Again, I'm not sure how this will be sustainable over the long haul, and the impact, it will take some time for agencies to go through what was in the budgets. Some of the new agencies that were created is the paid family medical leave. This will have a large impact on not only local jurisdictions of government, but this is going to have an impact on all of our businesses as they try to figure out how they are going to do this for employees. And then there's also the other one of safe and sick time that is coming as well. And then there's also the Cannabis Management Agency, also known as marijuana. Many jurisdictions are doing a moratorium on this particular legislation because, in my opinion, the bill was poorly written, and it's just a lot to try to understand within that bill. Some of the concerning things that were passed are non-citizens. They're going to be allowed to get driver's license that look no difference than yours or mine. It's going to have no indication that perhaps that they're not able to vote. There were amendments that were given to say maybe that there's some indication that for voting purposes, maybe it would look perhaps different than yours and mine, but that is not the case. They will also be allowed to enroll in Minnesota Care and then also be able to get free college for those that earn $80,000 and below. And of course, just as a reminder, this is all paid by you and I taxpayers. Minnesota seems to be a probation state. Criminals will potentially be put back in the streets after serving perhaps half of their prison sentence, and this includes those that are convicted for violent crimes such as murder or domestic assault. And in my opinion, we should put victims over those that are sitting in prisons. Also, in my opinion, not enough money was provided for law enforcement to hire, recruit, retain. These are the people that see perhaps the worst of the worst. If you've ever done a ride-along with a law enforcement, you know what they potentially come across. And I have a lot of respect for that profession, and we need to hold them to the and to provide the things that they need to keep us all safe within our communities. I think it's great that there was an increase in education funding. Our schools could use the additional dollars. The unfortunate part is that there were over 65 mandates that schools will need to do, which will eat into the increase that they got. So not sure how that will help in the classroom. I did receive a lot of emails from constituents in our area. I'd like to just highlight probably the top two that people were most concerned about. And on these two, not only did I receive phone calls, I got postcards, I got letters, I got emails on these particular bills that passed. And so the first one that I want to mention is the very first bill that was introduced this year. It's known as the PRO Act. And this allows a termination of pregnancy from conception until you could be delivering the baby. Also, residents were not in favor of the additional bill that was passed, which provides comfort care for those infants that survive an abortion. The second issue that was heavily on residents' minds, and this has to do with our Second Amendment restrictions. So there were a number of bills that came forth regarding a Second Amendment, the two that eventually did pass. One of them is the firearm background checks. And so this one imposes new restrictions on the transfer of pistols and semi-automatic weapons by creating a new record of transfer between the private parties and a transfer form that must be kept for 10 years. with a misdemeanor penalty if either party loses transfer receipt. It doesn't address the root cause of the violent crime. The second one is known as the Extreme Risk Protection Order. And in some cases, this will allow the court, people can petition the court. So if the person is seen as a risk to themselves or others, then their firearms can be seized by law enforcement. It doesn't address the alleged safety risk to begin with, which is the individual, and of course, in many people's opinion, this violates due process. So like I just mentioned, a lot of things happen this legislative session, but I do want to talk about something that's positive for our residents, and that has to do with the nursing home funding. So after a couple of attempts, the House did pass $300 million for nursing homes, and half of the funds went to direct payments to the nursing homes. And this was based off of, it was a $225,000 flat rate and an additional $4,016 per bed. So I had heard from a number of our nursing homes that they are really struggling. In our district last year, Winthrop, their nursing home closed, and a lot of that had to do with staffing. It was difficult to find people. And for those of us that have loved ones in nursing homes, it's really challenging because we provide care that perhaps the home doesn't have the resources to do. And so when you have to travel, say 45 minutes to an hour to visit with your loved one, that really is a lot of stress for individuals. The remaining balance of the bill is broken down into a workforce incentive grant program, and then also a temporary $12.35 per resident per day increase for residents on medical assistance. So the first payments went out on August 1st of this year. The second will be August 1st of next year. And then for our particular area, since I'm in Glencoe, I'll just mention the payment that they got on the first totaled $329,392. And then the one that's in 17B for our area here is the Gardens of Winstead. Okay, and they received on their first payment of $243,037. So hopefully that will help alleviate the stress that they have been under with that. So that is wonderful for our residents. I don't know if anybody has any questions. There's a lot to unpack this session. I will say that even though the bills were challenging, similar as being a county commissioner, the best part of being a county commissioner is state representative is the people that I serve, people that I meet, the parades, the city councils, just out and about. Always the best thing. I will tell my county commissioner that I did refer to him as a little bit of a slacker because never as a county commissioner did I work a 14-hour day. So very interesting. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or concerns?
Mr. Chair? Go ahead. One question came to mind while you were speaking there, the school funding. I noticed the feds tied gun safety and hunting programs and school shooting events to the funding. If they had that, if they had any of those programs, they couldn't get the funding. That is not in the state bill, I assume or hope. That might be a question you can't answer right this minute, but
It might not be a question and answer, that I can answer at the moment. I will say that of all the mandates, there are some in there that they will have to do with school safety. There's quite the list here.
and I didn't notice it in the state bills as they were going through, but they're lately, the last week or two in the federal talking points, they mentioned that any school that taught gun safety or had in shooting sports would have to sacrifice their funding.
Oh, my. Yeah.
So it might be worth something to check into. And then I want to thank you for, working so hard. It's, you have a challenging job with the minority party there, and I want to thank you for your sane voice. You seem to do your homework on, and I notice on the committees you do an excellent job, so I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. There is quite the learning curve. As a commissioner, right, I need to know more than just my district. I need to know the whole county. And so at the state, I need to learn about the entire state. And with state and local government, perhaps there needs to be a little bit of a change, right? Because a lot of bills that get passed, then the county has to fund those things. I mean, and you might get the one-time funding, right? We all understand that, but the long term, that is really a stress on our local levy. So it would be great. I do plan to work on some of that to see if we can't get some of that changed.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
Bobby, thank you for coming. Thank you for all the work. And I don't probably know how to articulate this question, so forgive me, but on the cannabis part, do you foresee like more tweaking to that or more, going back to the table and I don't know, tightening it up or continuing to look at the rules and regulations that, or is this where we're going to sit with it and move forward regarding maybe more the distribution of it, or, I mean, what are you hearing about that at all?
I believe that there needs to be more tweaking on that based upon from what I'm
So do
hearing.
I. I'm just wondering,
Where, I am not sure yet where. Maybe it has to do with our youth. I'm always concerned about addiction, which is a huge concern on the cannabis bill. The one thing about the cannabis bill, when that first came out, there was zero in the bill for any kind of local control. So we had brought up amendments to allow counties to have a say, townships or whoever, and I mean, those were shot down right away. But at the end, and I want to say thanks to the Association of Minnesota Counties who helped get some of that passed within the bill to allow counties to have some say in what happens within your county.
Yeah, it sounds like Duluth maybe passed an ordinance. Wright County's looking at one today. We're going to look at one, but, yeah.
Yeah, many are doing
Appreciate that. Yep.
moratoriums until we find out more what local jurisdictions can and can't do.
But that's good to hear that you agree that tweaking, if you will, needs to continue.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And Representative Harder, thank you for appearing before the board this morning and giving your report. I, as a citizen of Winston Township and also District 1, for those who don't know, Bobby serves us as our state representative on the eastern side of McLeod County. And I just want to say, to let our citizens be aware that the area you represent and show our appreciation for what you do and being our voice down in St. Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And I do appreciate the people that reach out and tell me what's on their mind. That really helps with legislation. And I do have a weekly during the session an update. So if people have not subscribed to that, please do so. And then outside legislation during the off time, then it's not as frequent. I think my last one was on education. And this next one would be about the new bills or the new laws that are coming up. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Very good. Any other questions at all for Representative?
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks for coming.
again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you again for allowing me to come and share the updates. I appreciate working on behalf of you and all of the residents of our district. Again, sign up for the updates if you're not receiving them. Reach out if you need anything, and I look forward to many years of working with McLeod County. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and have a good day. Next item, we'll be looking for Auditor Treasurer's Department.
Good morning. The first item A is to consider approving an agreement with Metro Sales, Inc. out of Burnsville for maintenance and toner for the 3 licensed center printers at a quarterly cost of $438.75 with funds from the license center budget. The print demand has increased with the volume of the driver's license, motor vehicle, and DNR transactions, causing our toner demands to increase significantly. Toner prices are continuing to rise, along with the difficulty in acquiring the ink. The agreement would result in a cost savings to the department.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Move request.
Is there a second? on the maintenance and toner for the 3 licensed center stations, cost of $438.75. Is there any discussion? Then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B is to consider approving the McLeod County Board of Commissioners Chair and Vice Chair as designated signers of change orders on all future county ditch drainage projects for up to 15% of the approved project cost, with notification to the full board after one signature is obtained and the change order is executed. This comes about because repair projects were awarded during the June 20th, 2023 board meeting for County Ditch 13 and County Ditch 29 systems. Construction has now begun on the systems, and then in preparation for requested change orders on both systems, Houston Engineering, the project engineer, does recommend assigning a representative from the county to sign change order contracts up to 15% of the approved project cost in order to keep the projects moving forward. I am recommending designating the board chair and the vice chair as signers of change orders on CD 13 and CD 29, and also all future county ditch drainage projects. This would not affect, of course, the joint ditch projects where the board organization is joint with other counties. The Auditor Treasurer's Office would maintain a tally of the change orders to track the 15% collective limit on all change order contracts.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
That, I just don't want to take this lightly because it's a very important task. And with that, I'd move to approve your recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger, second by Schmalz, to consider approving the McLeod County Board of Commissioners Chair and Vice Chair as designated signers to the change orders on future drainage projects. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I think it's a good idea to have this in place. When you're in construction and you have an active project moving along, sometimes decisions need to be made in a timely fashion. And I think this puts McLeod County in a good position to be responsive and keep these projects moving forward day to day. Thank you.
I'd agree. It is one way to keep these projects moving and also takes some of the weight off of our ditch inspectors out there that are trying to decide what to do when these things pop up. So, any other further comments or discussion on the motion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next 3 items are in relevance to tree and brush removal on separate projects. Item C is to consider awarding the County Ditch 8 tree and brush removal project to Wheatrick Drainage at a cost of $168,850, with funds coming from the County Ditch 8 budget. County Ditch 8 landowner meetings were held previously with discussion and general approval of those in attendance moving forward with tree and brush removal. Tree removal is needed on the system to facilitate a ditch cleanout, future as constructed report, and regular maintenance to keep the system in working order. McLeod County Drainage Inspector Adam Lesky has received 2 quotes for the project, which were included in the board packet. The project includes tree and brush removal and leveling historical spoils where work is completed. Wheatrick Drainage submitted the low quote, and work is tentatively scheduled to begin late 2023 and into 2024.
Mr. Chair, move request.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Kruger, to consider awarding the County Ditch 8 tree and brush removal project to Wheatrick Drainage at a cost of $168,850. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Is there, are you waiting for crops to be removed? Is that what the deal is, or is there some you can start with ahead of time? That's my only question.
When I originally put out the quotes, it was for the winter of 23 and 24. So that's when they originally were expected to start.
Okay. I assume that, but I guess we're never supposed to assume, so.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And I also want to say that I think part of when the project starts is dependent upon when the contractors are willing to come in. You know, this is a seasonal thing for them, and it kind of determines what we're doing out there. I will comment that Adam and I have viewed not all, but quite a few of the ditches that we're referencing here, and they are in desperate need of clearing and leveling the spoils from previous attempts that were made to maintain these systems. So we've been very transparent along the way. We've held the meetings. We've took feedback from the landowners. Adam has had contact with a lot of parcel owners out there, and I think this is just the next step in the process that we're going to do on these ditch systems.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item D is to consider awarding the County Ditch 10 tree and brush removal project to Ed's Excavating out of Norwood Young America at a cost of $85,000 with funds from the County Ditch 10 budget. Again, on County Ditch 10, we held landowner meetings, and the general discussion and approval of those in attendance was to move forward with tree and brush removal. Tree removal is needed on the system to facilitate a ditch cleanout, future as constructed report, and regular maintenance to keep the system in working order. McLeod County Drainage Inspector Adam Lesky has received 2 quotes for the project, which were also included in the board packet. This is actually phase 1 of this project. So phase 1 does include tree and brush removal and leveling historical spoils where work is completed. Ed's Excavating submitted the low quote, and work is tentatively scheduled to begin late 2023 and into 2024.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I will move request for all the reasons that I gave in the previous motion. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmal, second by Kruger, to consider awarding the County Ditch 10 tree and brush removal project to Ed's Excavating at a cost of $85,000. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Just a reminder that we're in the middle of, 3 years, so these costs, hopefully, with the staff we have now, once we get caught up with these ditches, as everybody can see, this costs a lot of money to clean these ditches and the brush and the trees growth, and hopefully with our maintenance programs that we've been working on for a number of years and are implementing, these costs, well, they won't disappear, but they will be easier to work on.
Okay, good comments. Anybody else? Okay, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the third and final project is to consider awarding County Ditch 36 tree and brush removal project to Wheatrick Drainage out of Norwood Young America at a cost of $107,500 with funds from County Ditch 36 budget. County Ditch 36 landowner meetings were held previously with discussion and general approval of those in attendance moving forward with tree and brush removal. Tree removal is needed on the system to facilitate a ditch cleanout, future as constructed report, and regular maintenance to keep the system in working order. McLeod County Drainage Inspector Adam Lesky had received 2 quotes for the project, which were included in the board packet. The project includes tree and brush removal and leveling of historical spoils where work is completed. Wheatrick Drainage submitted the low quote, and work is tentatively scheduled to begin again late 2023 and into 2024.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I will move request as previously stated in the prior 2 motions.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmal, second by Kruger, to consider awarding the County Ditch 36 tree and brush removal project to Wheatrick Drainage at a cost of $107,500. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have today. Enjoy yourselves at the fair.
Yep. Next up, Information Technology, Sheila Murphy.
Thank you. Item A, consider approving the statement of work from Now Micro, Inc. in Mendota Heights, Minnesota for a block hour agreement for support on Microsoft Intune and System Center Configuration Manager at a cost of $8,100 with funds from the Information Technology budget. These are tools that we use to deploy and manage computers and devices in the county network. They are used by other counties through MIN-CCC. Thank you.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel, second by Luthens, to consider approving the statement of work from Now Micro at a cost of $8,100. Is there any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public Works. Andrew.
Good morning.
Morning.
Consider approving Resolution 23CB40 for the revocation of County Road 74 in Bergen Township. In April of 2023, McLeod County and Bergen Township entered into an agreement to turn County Road 74 in Bergen Township over to the township. This resolution will be the final step in this turn back.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move request.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Luthens. Okay, we have a motion by Schmal, second by Luthens, to consider approving Resolution 23CB40 for the revocation of County Road 74 in Bergen Township. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
And if I may call on County Attorney Ryan to kind of explain the process and where we're at now. I think we're finally getting to the finish line on completing these, and they've been in the works for, I guess, over a year. So I do believe in the transparency that we have shown in going through this process, and I would appreciate the update from County Attorney.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Schmaltz. And I mean, right, we really are at the final stage, as Mr. Engel stated today. Last week on the 9th, I believe, yes, Wednesday the 9th, we did have a public hearing at the Bergen Town, during the Bergen Township meeting to allow for public input and comment. And again, that's both required by statute, but it's also an important step to allow the public to continue to have input throughout. And obviously, township representatives were there as well. So yeah, I mean, at this stage, all that's left to complete the turn back is the passage of this resolution. So it comes after a fair amount of negotiation, conversation. It very much was a collaborative process as far as I was concerned throughout, which is great. There's a statutory scheme that allows for it not necessarily to go that route, but it's much better when it can. So this really represents the final step. So it comes, again, after a fair amount of consideration and negotiation and collaboration. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it to this point. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other concerns, comments? Go ahead.
I attended the hearing, and I mean, obviously, there's advantages, there's fiscal advantages to doing this, and there was really no opposition to it, but from the residents, and obviously not from the county as well. But and roads in general are complicated. I mean, it's complicated in the fact that products are hard to come by, and it's hard to maintain a good road, and some want hard surface and some like gravel. So there's always those challenges, and I don't feel that they didn't come into this process as much as a bridge that's on that road. Then there's fiscal reasons to go through with that. So with that, I am supporting this project.
All right, any other comments? Mr. Birch, any comments at all?
I have no comment.
Okay.
We worked on this and we've come up with a lot of negotiations and plans. And I hope it's a win-win for everybody. Because I understand that the bridge on that road is bad and it depends maybe on bonding funds where otherwise they can use township funds.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Any other concerns? Then we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, consider approving the purchase of a Kuhn GMD 240 HD 8-foot rotary disc mower from Arnold's of Glencoe at a cost of $10,650, which includes a trade amount of $3,350 for a 2012 Kuhn GMD 600G disc mower with funds from the highway equipment maintenance budget. Midwest Machinery of Glencoe, Minnesota quoted $12,900 for a John Deere R240 disc mower, which includes the trade of the same mower. The estimated delivery for this new mower is August of this year, and this is part of our normal replacement program and is budgeted for 2023. Our mowers are probably some of the most used and abused equipment with all of the obstructions in our road ditches. And so in order to keep those mowers up and running, we need to replace them fairly often.
Okay. Board members?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel, second by Kruger, to consider approving the purchase of the 8-foot rotary disc mower from Arnold's of Glencoe at a cost of $10,650. Is there any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up will be employee relations.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just have the one here. It is to consider approving a recommendation from the Evaluation Committee and Personnel Committee to move the support enforcement aid from a grade 120 to a grade 130 due to job description updates.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I just want to comment because it's always, there's always a lot of questions when things are recommended for a grade change. That is because this position changed considerably. So when that happens, we ask that the supervisor and the department head reestablish the job description accurately, submit it, goes in for review, and then the evaluation committee assigns a grade to that job. They pass that on to the personnel committee. That would just mean that they have seen what has occurred and that there are changes that would recommend a job grade change.
Okay. Board members, action items, questions? I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Wright, second by Nagel, to consider approving a recommendation from the evaluation committee to move the support law enforcement aid from 120 to 130 due to job description updates. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Just real quick. So obviously, this comes with great deal of scrutiny. I always scrutinize the timing of it, specifically when it comes through, but regarding this particular position, when, and Sheila, feel free to step in, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a timing thing, right? How the position became available, or the opening of it, right?
Well, and plus, like you said, the timing, our budgeting cycle, we're trying to figure everything out for 2024 right now. And we've asked that our department heads are conscious of when things change with the cost of positions. Obviously, that can't always happen. So it looks like it's mid-year change, but it actually kind of follows our budget cycle for planning. So it is difficult, but we also need to make sure that we bring the changes to you as they occur.
And then that was my next point. These are the changes that need to come to the full board that can't just go through the personnel committee. So please keep that in mind.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
for today, I'm gonna go on with this, but I'm gonna just, I'd like more transparency in these type of things, in my opinion, that we need the department head to actually come forward and make these requests on their own. We have a good staff, but I don't think we're missing a step here, because I don't totally understand what's going on, and I just feel that there'd be more transparency if that department head would stand before
Mr.
us
Chair.
and ask for those reasons.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kruger and I did have some discussion about that concern. This is the process that we follow to bring. They all come through the personnel and come from employee relations. So the department heads have been giving that direction. I did explain the items in the job description that have changed. I'd be happy to go over them if that would be helpful for anyone. However, I think one of the concerns is that the Health and Human Services meetings have been, the items from those meetings are moved into our regular meetings, which I believe would bring more transparency than having the very low attendance HHS committee meetings that we had in the past. If there's more explanation needed, though, we're happy to always expand on that or set up any meetings for any commissioners, because it is a lot. I mean, we have, I don't know how many jobs, Andrea. Do you know a number of jobs? I don't. I would guess we have over 100 job descriptions, maybe 200. It's difficult to expect our Board of Commissioners to keep track of all of that and the changes. We do take it seriously when people bring job descriptions to us for change. They don't all come to you. If there is not a significant change, they don't come through. So I just want you to keep that in mind. We don't come to you unless there is a recommendation for change, and there's oftentimes people asking for things to be reviewed that do not result in change. So whatever we can do to be helpful, we're willing to do. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go on to county administration. We'll begin with our calendars. Commissioner Nagel, are you ready for your
Yep.
report?
After the last board meeting, held a workshop, talked about some personnel issues, one of them that we just addressed. Also had a joint insurance meeting with Sibley County that will be passed on. Met with our broker with the recommendations regarding future premiums that will future premiums. I've made my recommendations regarding distributions of the premiums that will go to the budget committee and then to the full board as the budgeting process goes on. So that's all I have.
Okay. Different meetings, one watershed, one plan with the South Fork of the Crow River that is moving forward now to a 60-day review of the final draft. And so that draft can be found on the county website, and staff throughout all of the counties that are involved in that are doing everything they can to make sure and publicize that we are within that 60-day period where we need to have public input if there are changes that need to be made, but that has been months and months in the making. Over the last week and a half, I've been involved in a couple meetings with our staff, one of them on an assessing issue, the other with a judicial ditch. Throughout these meetings have been a combination of our attorney's office, assessor's office, SWCD administration, and in all cases, very impressed with how our staff is able to handle the issue at hand, clear up some of the bad information, some rumors, some misconceptions, and just base it on some fair findings. And I think by the end of all those types of meetings that I've had, everyone was able to leave pleased with the information. So, go ahead, Doug.
Thank you. Our workshop after our last meeting was mentioned. On the 3rd, I had a North Fork watershed one plan meeting, and we had an open house in Litchfield. The open house was pleasantly surprisingly well attended. They had some hors d'oeuvres, and they had a number of projects, poster boards and information tapes and running on showing the projects, and it went very well. On the 7th, I had the SWCD board meeting, and on the 9th, as mentioned during the meeting, we met in Lester Prairie at the Virgin Township meeting on the public hearing on the turnbacks. On the 10th, I had a drainage workshop meeting in St. Cloud, also very well attended. What we do, as I've mentioned many times before, is we're an advisory group to the legislature. It's going to be interesting to see what they want in changes in drainage law. Obviously, it doesn't look very well for compromises. There's some agendas coming forward that are not going to make drainage any easier. Let me put it that way, the nice way to put it. But, so I've been spending a lot of my time trying to educate myself the best I can in drainage law and what we can do to satisfy restrictions and yet not cost the landowner so much money. On Thursday, the 11th, we had the agenda review and brings us up to today. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger. From our last meeting, like was stated, we had our workshop here at the Government Center. And then I'll say that I've taken several calls trying to deal with a driveway access issue in my district last week and the previous week as well. On Thursday the 3rd, I attended the Prime West Joint Powers Board meeting in Alexandria. I'll try to highlight the meeting a little bit. The Joint Powers Board meets monthly, and generally it's business as usual. It's a very intense meeting filled with a lot of information, a lot of business to take care of. Prime West at that meeting did approve a slight change to their logo, and I think it's a positive change. It's very slight. I guess unless you're paying a great deal of attention to the logo itself, you may not see the subtle change in it, but they like to update and keep current with how they're presenting themselves. And then other discussion came about was a report on the appeal that not just Prime West, but other county-based purchasing systems have had in front of the courts. Just a reference for the public. The Minnesota Department of Health had an issue with county-based purchasing, which started at the beginning of this year. Prime West was not in agreement with that and brought a lawsuit forward. And in the first round in the courts, the lawsuit that Prime West was pursuing was not supported. The decision was appealed, and in appeals court, we finally got information yesterday that now the appeals court ruled in favor of Prime West and county-based purchasing. So I don't know what that means. I mean, technically, and where it goes. I know it'll help us moving forward into next year, but I don't believe that we can turn the clock back on what's happened this year. But that was very good news and a very long struggle that Prime West has been involved with. On Monday the 7th, I had Supporting Hands Nurse-Family Partnership meeting in Olivia. Again, business as usual. We meet quarterly, and it's a several county cooperative effort to keep that program running. On Wednesday the 9th, as Commissioner Kruger mentioned, we had our public hearing at the Virgin Township meeting. The hearing was held to discuss the turnbacks that we've been in process with over the last year. And Thursday the 10th, I attended our Winston Township meeting as well. I thought it was important that I attend that meeting with the roundabout construction that we're experiencing in District 1 and the traffic concerns. We had a good discussion at that meeting. It was ended by the state project manager as well as myself and township officers, and I hope that we got an understanding about where we're at. So I believe we had a healthy discussion and a good result from getting together to get that roundabout installed. The last report I heard was that they did experience a slight delay due to some soil corrections that had to be done last week, but the project manager was pretty confident in the schedule that we're still on track. I believe he was referencing starting to place sand in this week, and was hopeful that possibly concrete could start coming in the following week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, excuse me. I attended a seminar in Duluth for Center of Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. It was 3 days with several speakers. I'm new to that committee. I've been on there for like 3-4 months, and it's pretty interesting. And I think it's got something to do with economic development too. And then on Wednesday, the 9th, I attended PAC for Families. That was in Wilmer. On the 10th, I was out looking at ditch number 8, laterals 12 and 13, which are getting started now. Got most of it surveyed out. And on Friday, the 11th, I attended Marshall, SMAMHC meetings. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor. Administration.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair. Item A, notification of board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, at the McLeod County Government Center here at 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our agenda, so we'll open it up to any open forum or press relations questions or comments.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I do have a question.
Yep.
Commissioner, at Prime West, did that new face or kind of a new structure or whatever, a new logo, is that to reflect maybe into more counties that have joined Prime West?
Commissioner Kruger, to answer your question, I believe it does. I don't want to give you a long, detailed answer, but like what you're referencing, 13 more counties joined the group, and Prime West has a pretty strong presence in western Minnesota, from the Iowa border all the way up to the counties in northwest Minnesota. So they've expanded their coverage territory as well. So I think the logo kind of does bring some character of both, southern Minnesota into the logo, but it's a very subtle change. The words Prime West still are the key component of the new logo. There was some concern about what this is going to cost us, but Prime West assured us they're going to use their paper. All the pre-printed materials aren't going to be destroyed. It'll be a slow transition to the new logo with all of their documentation as it's used up.
Well, and there's most people probably don't know, they have a flag for each county in front of their office. So I don't imagine they put 13 more flags out there, so I don't know how, I mean, it's attractive, and I bring this up only because Prime West is a pretty important tool for the counties in our insurance, and I was just curious on that to start. My bigger question is, though I do have a bigger question, is I'm really proud of them in pursuing this county-based purchasing, but they've hired Kaiser to broker the rides for Health and Human Services, and are backfilling them with some different things. And I would ask that the commissioner or commissioners that sit on Prime West would question that. I personally don't believe in what they're doing to assign a third party to send out recommendations or even setting up the rides for Health and Human Services. So I just would like either a clearer understanding or wondering why they're doing that.
There was discussion about how Prime West could improve the transportation of the whole system to try and eliminate some of the overlaps and also improve services. And then the question comes up, if we're running Trailblazer or if we're running the other transportation systems in Prime West's area, and the discussion then leads to how to administer these transportation systems with MnDOT.
And I
And,
recommended, I do realize the challenges, and I'm just saying, just bringing this up because I don't see this is probably an easy way, but it's not an efficient way, or being able to keep track of the money being spent. I mean, it's, I'd like to either be convinced that it is efficient. I mean, like, again, Prime West is a big influence on some of these things, and I'd like to hear their rationale on this, but.
Yep, thanks, Commissioner. And I can tell you that it was a point of discussion, and some suggestions were made by several commissioners who sit on the Prime West Joint Powers Board, and no decisions were made.
Thank you.
Okay, back to open forum or press relations. Was there anything else? Seeing none, oh, go ahead.
Morning, gentlemen. Tony Houseline, Winston Township. One item that maybe wasn't discussed that maybe we should put on a future agenda topic for a workshop is when Nathan was at our township meeting the other night, we did talk about recycling for township. And with the recent decision to remove recycling to township members, I think as a county, we need to take a look at that a little bit more holistically and how we're going to manage that and handle that going forward, and how we're going to make that fair and equitable as we're taking funds and we're paying for recycling for the cities, and the townships no longer have any recycling available, other than driving all the way to Hutchinson and walking in whatever distance that is now. So I'm asking for that to be a future workshop agenda topic at some point in the future. It doesn't have to be right now. I understand the decision that was made was a difficult one. I also found out that a lot of city members were actually going out to the townships and putting recycling in there. So there may have been an understanding that it was township residents that were maybe, putting trash in there, and it actually might be more city than township. So. But I guess I'd just like to add that to a future agenda workshop at some point.
Mr. Chair? Go ahead. Yeah, and I just talked with Commissioner Wright here on who to take this. This is on our agenda. I mean, we realized with the hard decision of doing this with Mr. Telecki that, we have research to do, and this is an ongoing topic, obviously. And the challenges are, does policing these things cost more than implementing them? So there's a lot of work to do to figure it out. But we have this on our agenda to try and have some kind of a workshop or a meeting on different ways to do it. It's as you know, it's not going to be an easy task.
Understood. Yeah, I just think we need to take a step back as a county, maybe look at the whole entire recycling program holistically and understand how do we equitably manage that fairly and make sure that it's fair and equal access.
Tony, that's
Always
exactly what
remember-
we did by doing this.
Always remember, though,
Sorry.
that out of 87 counties, we're the only one that doesn't charge. I mean,
Understood,
and this is
understood.
gonna
Maybe
include-
we need to go down that path.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
That
no,
may
I
be-
completely
that
understand.
may be And it's my personal view, and I sit on that committee, and my personal view is I don't really want to go into a workshop or a meeting until we have some solid information to base a decision on. And that's what we're working on. And I'm very confident in Mr. Telecki on bringing us some information. So, sorry.
Joe, didn't hear what you said.
It's exactly what we did, you use holistically, right? That's exactly what we did by removing them, to take an approach to look at the overall program, right? Because if we didn't do that, we just continue to.
I agree with the decision.
Can I finish? Thank you. So and I appreciate you agree with the decision, and you don't have to, but I appreciate that comment. Because if we just continue down the road that we're doing, we don't know what we don't know. Because all we were doing is literally getting the trash. And it sucked, right? The township that I represent loved the program, worked incredibly hard, had neighbors that policed it, and we took it away from them, and now they're getting punished literally with garbage in their yard. So this just sucks, all right? So I just want you to know that it isn't going, and maybe you're not saying this, but I want everyone to know that this isn't going, it's not like we're forgetting about it. It is a constant thought on how can we bring this back? Can we bring this back? And if we do, what does it look like? Is it locked sites? Is it monitored sites? What does this mean? The city of Winstead, correct, Paul? Yep. Approached us about a way to bring it back in their, is it a brush site or something like that,
Yeah.
where they would monitor it? Things like that. People are really stepping up to the plate, and now we need to find a way to blend that in and see what works well. And so, whether it's a workshop or whatever, I just want you to know, and forgive my frustration, but I want you to know that this isn't, we're not sitting up here going, forgetting about it. I want you to know that. And
Understood.
I want everybody to know that.
No, understood completely, and the only reason I'm even bringing it up is just, the opportunity of being here today, just, as we had talked about it on our meeting last Thursday with Commissioner Schmaltz, and basically trying to move this forward, and I think, maybe we need to, have a brainstorming session as to how do we manage this. I mean, other counties are doing it, what are they doing? I mean, let's not reinvent the wheel, so let's see what other people are doing, and maybe that's what we do, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll then be looking for a motion to recess. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion by Nagel, second by Luthens to recess until our next county board meeting, 9 a.m. Tuesday, September 5th at the McLeod County Government Center. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll have a brief recess and begin our workshop agenda.